Hello, everyone. Welcome back to 805 Sports Talk here at SantaMariaTimes.com. Thank you for joining us. It has been another busy week here on the Central Coast, so busy that Kenny Cress and Joe Bailey are off on assignment, so they won't be joining us today live, although Kenny has given us a report on the Little League playoffs that are set to begin, but there's plenty going on. The Little League, there's Babe Ruth baseball coming up. The go-karts, which are actually just called karts these days, are coming back to Santa Maria, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. There's, of course, the Olympic trials with several local people in it, and all kinds of action in the pro front with NBA basketball taking center stage. Even though there are no games, there's a lot of activity in the NBA. So let's get started. And we'll get right to it with Kenny Cress bringing us up to date on what's happened with the Little League.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. The Little League tournament has been well underway. The District 65 tournament, the winners bracket finals were due to start Thursday. Arroyo Grande and Lompoc American were the teams that had qualified for that winners bracket final game. Arroyo Grande has just been flat out smashing the ball, really. Arroyo Grande has scored a total of 42 runs in its first 3 tournament games. The defense has been fine. Arroyo Grande made 2 harmless errors in a 15-7 win over Southside last Saturday. Neither one led to a run. Lompoc has been hitting the ball as well. Lompoc scored a 6-4 come from behind win in 7 innings last Saturday. I believe that was the first extra inning game of the tournament. Lompoc won on a 3-run walk-off home run. I think either team, Arroyo Grande or Lompoc, which advances to the championship round, will be tough, will be hard to beat. Orchid American and Napomo were due to play on Wednesday. The winner of that one advanced to another elimination game, and either Orchid American or Napomo were set to take on Santa Maria Northside on Friday. The elimination round seems to agree with Northside. Northside has won 3 elimination games going into Friday. I think either in the Northside or Napomo or Northside Orchid American matchup sets up to be an interesting one. Oh, it's a very competitive tournament coming down to the second part of it. I have been to most of the tournament games, and the spectators' comments have been overwhelmingly positive. It has been a generally positive experience. Good to see adults setting a good example.
So thank you, Kenny. That was great. Kenny is going to be covering a lot of that Little League. Jacob Rayburn and I will be getting the rest of the games as well. There are games coming up Friday, Saturday, Monday, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Monday, and if necessary, a game on Wednesday, which would be a winner-take-all championship game. So the local Babe Ruth has now been in the books. The district here, Section 1, is it?
District 6, Babe
District 6, and now we're going to Section 1.
Now we're going to
the Central California State Tournament.
Central California State Tournament. California being the size that it is, there are 3 state champions, 3 state tournaments, North, South, and Central. And of course that means that the top Central Coast teams get to go to the Central Valley, and about a raise of about 40 degrees in game time temperature. And 3 Lompoc teams made it, an Orchid team made it, and Santa Maria as well. And we have the 15s, everyone's starting on Friday, July 8th, their first games. We've got in the 15s, Lompoc versus Lodi at 1 p.m., and Santa Maria versus the winner of Delano and Reedley at 4 p.m. that Friday. The 14s are playing in Hanford at John F. Kennedy Junior High, the 15s at Reedley High School. The Lompoc 14s will play against Reedley at 1 p.m. and the 13s are playing at Madera South High School. high school sports fans should know Madera South's name for being one of the premier cross-country programs in the entire state and West Coast, but this time it's going to be baseball, where Lompoc versus Hanford at 10 a.m. Friday and Orchid versus Kerr West at 1 p.m. the same day. Worth noting about each of those Lompoc games, kind of a cool story, there's going to be a Hayes brother on each one of those. The Hayes brothers are the sons of Fred and Jill Hayes. We have Connor on the 15s, Corbin on the 14s, and Grayson on the 13s. Had a chance to talk to their father, who is an assistant wrestling coach at Lompoc High. Just an interesting story. You know, we're used to brothers and sisters playing sports at the same time, especially youth sports. But three brothers isn't really all that common. And for them to all reach state and all in the same sport at the same time, it's going to be, as their father put it, a rare opportunity, which was kind of the bright side way of looking at the fact that the Hayes family will be split up amongst three different Central Valley towns. But I'm sure it'll be fun, and hopefully we'll see some trophies coming, not just to the Lompoc teams, but to the Hayes family as well. And so we've got local connections pretty much going everywhere. We got local connections going to the Central Valley for baseball, and we have local connections going in the Olympics, trying to get to Rio. And it's promising to be a very interesting summer in terms of local athletes plying their trade around everywhere. Elliott?
Well, we could get right to the Olympics. I want to get into the go-karts that are coming back too. But we have several people that have made the Olympic team from the Central Coast. We have Josh Pernot. He's probably the headliner of the group. He set an American record in the 200 breaststroke, so he's going to be one of the stars of the swimming team for the Rio Olympics. Santa Maria High School graduate Carlos Banderas is a lightweight boxer. He was the first boxer to qualify for the U.S. Olympic team. And Cammie Craig is a defending gold medalist. She's a San Ynez High School student that actually transferred down to Santa Barbara High School, went on to college, and she's been on the USA Women's Water Polo team for several years, won a gold medal in London in 2012, and she is back in center position for that team, and they'll be looking for gold again. A quite strong team, but there are a couple people who didn't make the team. Jacob?
Yeah, it's, you know, not everyone can really make the Olympics. It's an incredibly tough thing to do. One of Lompoc Valley's favorite athletes, Dwayne Solomon, just had a tough year and a tough time at the Olympic trials, and just wasn't his day. He tweeted out an apology to those who supported him, which I always feel, you know, you gave it your all. There's really no need for an athlete to apologize. He just had a bad year of dealing with issues off the racetrack with injuries and everything. And then Jordan Hasse also had a tough, was not in top racing form at the trials. And we had Stephanie Brown Trafton, who won a gold medal at the Beijing Olympics. She had a decent year leading up to the event, and but at the trials, she wasn't quite able to get to her top marks that she's used to.
Hasse's been plagued with plantar fasciitis. That's a painful foot ailment. I know my wife has struggled with it for years, and if you're hit with it, it's tough to even walk, let alone run. And she was going to run in a 10,000, so that's a long race, and she couldn't do 100 yards, let alone a 10,000. She got herself into decent shape, but finished, I think it was 9th in the qualifying for the Olympics. So it was good for her to keep plugging away, but she just wasn't healthy enough all year to put in the kind of training she needed to compete. There's also a girl named Barbara Nawaba. She's from Los Angeles, but she competes for the Santa Barbara Track Club and also competed for UCSB, and she had the top mark in the women's heptathlon during the trials. And then the second best mark was Sharon Day, who was a Cal Poly athlete. And Stephanie Brown-Trafton, she's got a gold, but that was back in the Beijing Olympics in 2008. And unfortunately, I think age is catching up with her a little bit. She's not that old in real terms, but in Olympic terms, she's getting up there. So she just couldn't compete with the younger kids that were out there this year. But we'll still have representatives from the Central Coast, from this area, on the team. And of course, we'll keep you posted on everything they're doing, as well as pretty extensive Olympic coverage that we've got planned for the Rio Olympics.
We've talked about, you know, the many issues that are kind of presenting themselves around Rio, and we've got the Olympic trials that have been on TV the last few days. People have been able to watch the U.S. team come together. So that's something that people have been able to at least enjoy watching the process of that. But while we get ready for the Rio Olympics, we also have something kind of coming back to our area. That's, I know, is a story that you really like, and it's something that we can kind of think about while we're waiting for Rio to come on.
That would be the karts. The International Karting Federation has chosen Santa Maria for its national championships, the two-cycle national championships. Now, they have several different kinds of karting. These are the karts that, as you years ago might have called go-karts, but they're not go-karts, they're just karts. And they have two-cycle engines, four-cycle. Those are the Blooms right there from Napomo. They're champions. That's Kirk Scoffel, also from Santa Maria, graduate of Pioneer Valley High School now. They have a premier track here in Santa Maria. It had over 50 years, 52 years that it was open before the Federal Aviation Administration and the Airport Commission pulled their lease. Now, the track is on the south side of the airport, and they went through about 2 years from 2010 to 2012 with no kart racing over there. And then they worked out their differences, and they came back in 2012. And they've had a couple regional championships, but this will be the first time a national championship has been run there since 2008. And the IKF, the International Karting Federation, loves this track. It's a beautiful facility. They can have 25 different setups, but there is a national championship setup that they run. It's about a mile long, lefts and rights. It's a road course, and it is just highly entertaining. They've got kids as young as 5 years old out there in their kiddie karts, and all the way up to adults will be racing. They got boys, girls, but they don't have separate boys and girls classes. They race against each other, and the young women do quite well out there. We've seen a bunch of them win championships, IKF national championships, and a couple of them even have gone on to race at the Santa Maria Speedway. And this weekend, it's the IKF two-cycle national championships. Friday, they'll be there for practice, and Saturday and Sunday for 2 days of racing in all kinds of categories. And every kart is weighted, every kart is tested to make sure everything is fair. Every single kart goes through inspection. I mean, it's amazing how high-tech this is. And these are not $300 karts. We're talking thousands of dollars. $10,000 is not an unheard of number for one kart. They travel with spare bodies, spare engines. They get sponsors. You think you're going to a NASCAR race, but you don't have the kinds of crashes you have in NASCAR, although you see them run off the course into the hay bales when they can't make a corner, but rarely does anybody get hurt in these things, and it's just a lot of fun. I mean, I love going to them. The people are great, the kids are great, the moms and dads are great, the teams, because you can't just do it. The fathers and sons are not alone in working on these karts. They have special engines they have built, chassis, transmissions. It is really fascinating when you get into it. And they'll be out there 3 days. Everybody is welcome. I'm going. I know I'll be taking time I've got to go to a Little League game Saturday morning, but then I'll head over there and then go back for championships on Sunday. And we'll, of course, have all the results, the stories in your Santa Maria Times, and, of course, in the online at santamariatimes.com. So if you can get out there, you'll find this fascinating. And there's good seating. Because of the nature of the track, there are grandstands you can sit in, and you'll be able to see the whole course and watch these kids, and adults too, fly around the track. And I'm tell you, you'd be impressed with the 5-year-olds. They have no fear. They go out there and they just put the pedal to the metal and they go. And they make lefts and they make rights. And I tell you, 5 years old, it's like having your own car, and they just go as fast as they can. And their karts will get into the 40s, 43, 45 miles an hour. Now, some of the bigger karts, they can hit, well, the shifter cars will get to 90 miles an hour, but we're not having the shifter cars. But these cars will do 60, 65 miles an hour for the older kids and for the adults. So it's going to be a lot of fun to get out there and see these kids over the weekend and to cover it and report on it, get pictures, maybe a little video that we can bring to you on our next 805 Sports Talk. Then we were talking here, we do a lot of talking about sports, and that's one reason we'd like to bring you the show, to kind of do the same kind of conversation we have in our sports department that we have right here. And one of the things we've been talking about is the NBA and the free agent frenzy that's been going on. I was a little shocked that Kevin Durant would come to the Warriors. In some ways, it's being treated a lot like LeBron James when he left Cleveland to go to Miami, although Cleveland is almost LeBron James's home. Akron, Ohio is his home, and he's not that far away to Cleveland, and he went down to Miami, and people thought he was a traitor. Durant is from the East Coast, so the Thunder, Oklahoma City, is not his home, but it has been his basketball home for the last 9 years, I think it is.
Yeah, well, the thing about it is that, you know, it is the game in town. Oklahoma City Thunder, the city so thoroughly embraced that team, and it's something that Durant always praised as being an amazing experience of how much that city was behind the team. That, you know, they got connected. They became very close as player and fans can be. I don't really understand everybody criticizing Durant about his decision about, you know, Charles Barkley saying he's cheating to get his rings by joining all these other stars. People saying how back in the day, you know, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson wouldn't have been, how much fun it would be to play together, so we should play together. Instead, they were these fierce rivals who developed into great friends off the court but hated each other on it. And there seems to be this kind of woe is us that the days of great rivals and great competing teams is gone. It's on the NBA to be better. It's on the NBA to have more depth. It's on the NBA that there's way too many teams in their league, and so there's a lot of teams that will never ever be able to assemble good rosters. Kevin Durant gave it his all for a long time to try to bring a small market team, relatively small market team, a ring, and they couldn't do it. Injuries, they're just issues beyond Brian Westbrook and Durant, and also it took a little bit of time. I don't buy the whole Durant needs to apologize for the fact that he's joining a really good team. The NBA is an entertainment industry. We're supposed to be entertained watching basketball. I challenge anyone to tell me that I'm not going to be entertained watching Durant play with Klay Thompson and Draymond Green and Steph Curry. Pretty sure I'm going to be entertained by that. So I don't buy, you know, you can talk about the great rivalries of Boston and LA. Who's to say we won't have rivalries still?
Oh, sure.
There are teams that like to beat each other, that don't like each other. We've seen player movement forever, but the NBA created the rules. Now, if I own a team or I'm a general manager, there are rules that say I can't talk to players until a certain date. But there are no rules that say players can't talk to players. And if you know, when they wooed Durant, the Warriors brought Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson to the talks, and as fierce rivals as they may be on the court when they're on different teams, he could be the piece that they need to start a dynasty, because they won one championship, came close to a second when they set a second record after a record number of wins, they became the first team to ever lose the finals after being up 3-1. So he decided that his future would be better on a team that is already going places and is still a pretty young team.
Yeah.
So I don't see that he should be faltered. And you know, LeBron went through it when he first went to Miami, but he won them a couple titles in 4 years, but only 2 out of. He made the finals all 4 years, but they only won 2 titles. So there's no guarantee that the addition of Durant is going to help the Warriors establish a dynasty. And of course, to add his salary, they've had to shed some players. They may not have been the stars, but your team needs guys that aren't stars to win.
Yeah. Well, and people are making a big deal about this mega team Golden State's putting together, and you know, the top athletes should want to forge their own path. I considered the much greater story in the NBA, in my opinion, the much bigger story in the NBA is just how far the New York Knicks and the LA Lakers have fallen. These are 2 franchises that are supposed to be pillars that hold up the NBA, that make great basketball every night something that you can count on watching. And I mean, it's just been remarkable how much these 2 teams have fallen on hard times, to the point that the Lakers are being told no by all these agents. Not only are we not going to come to your team, we're not going to even talk to you.
Well, they get Timothy Mozgov.
Yeah, we go.
For way too much money. He's a nice player, but I would think he would be the 7th or 8th player on a lot of teams, so he's all right. But when you look at it, the players win or lose the games. The coaches kind of get them in the shape and teach them a system that could help win or lose games. But the general managers and the presidents, the owners, they're the ones that build the teams. And if you look at the Spurs, they're in many ways they could be the dullest team in pro sports, but they have a standard of excellence for 20 years. They guys get older and retire, and they replace them. They lose some guys to free agency, and they replace them. They always seem to be in the mix for a championship. They've won a few.
Oh, yeah.
They don't win them all, but they've won a few, and they are like all of the sports world's standard of excellence, because year in and year out, they are a threat to win the championship. And then you look at the Lakers and the Knicks and you say, well, what happened to those guys? You know, there are teams that have come along over the years. Houston, when they had Akeem Olajuwon and those guys, and Detroit with the Bruce brothers, I guess they were back in the days. They had a couple good years, but they didn't establish dynasties, and they put some good teams together and were not able to sustain it. But for years, the Celtics, the Knicks, the Lakers were able to sustain the kind of excellence that San Antonio has been able to do, and they've fallen on hard times. And so who do you blame for that? Is it the players? Well, the players don't win the games, but who hired the players?
Yeah.
Mitch Kupchak seems to be able to keep his job year in and year out, but there are other teams that have a much quicker trigger finger for getting rid of coaches and general managers and presidents because they don't see it getting done. You know, those 76ers were once an elite franchise, and they're among the worst ever the last decade. So, you know, it's not just the players that do this, and you see a team like San Antonio that has been able to maintain this excellence, even though they're not winning a championship every year. They're not necessarily a dynasty, but in some ways they have a dynastic formation or foundation because they keep bringing in new pieces and are extremely competitive and are a threat to win the championship every year. And then these other teams that you used to think were elite are awful.
Yeah, well, you know, there's a lot of awful teams. There doesn't seem to be apparently that many great players to go around. Free agency has been spending at a ridiculous rate. So one thing, though, that we can be very confident about, if you can be an NBA player, it's a good job because you're going to get a lot of money, and it doesn't matter that you're not the biggest star in the world. You can be Mike Conley, and all of a sudden you're getting money thrown at you like you're LeBron James. So it's a good job if you can get it, but...
Yeah, you don't have to win a championship to get filthy rich.
No,
That's
you
for
do
sure.
not.
And we'll have lots more to talk about next week when we resume with our next edition of 805 Sports Talk. But that's going to pretty much do it for us this week. And we thank you for being with us. And as always, remember, check your newspaper every day. We'll have the latest from the upcoming Little League playoffs, the upcoming Babe Ruth tournaments, and of course the go-kart action will be in print and online at SantaMariaTimes.com. And of course, we'd love you to join us next week right here on 805 Sports Talk. So until then, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next week.